Perfetto. Good morning and welcome. My name is Serena Soffiantini from the Research Center of Animal Production in Reggio Emilia, Parma. Today, I have the pleasure to chair this third international workshop linked to Caseus and to the project Resilience for Dairy. This is the third year that Caseus hosts the project, and so we are really grateful. And today we are going to hear about some technical resilient solution in dairy farms that are, let's say, a preview of the results of the project itself. Noi non sentiamo la traduzione. Okay. Now I would like to give the floor to President Borga for, let's say, the official opening of the day. So please, President.
Bene, anch'io mi accomuno ai saluti. Buongiorno a tutti. 19esima edizione di questo importantissimo ritrovo nel lattiero caseario del Veneto in Villa Contarini a Piazzola sul Brenta, dove noi ormai abbiamo la sede naturale di quello che è il percorso che abbiamo perseguito negli anni per arrivare ad avere un evento così importante a livello nazionale. Oggi abbiamo questo convegno, domani ci sarà l'inaugurazione di quello che è l'evento importantissimo che praticamente ha dato lustro alle produzioni del Veneto. È partito come Caseus Veneti, adesso è Caseus, all'interno abbiamo anche il concorso nazionale di formaggi di fattoria, quindi la regione Friuli Venezia Giulia, tanti altri che hanno deciso di partecipare con noi a questo evento, ma soprattutto abbiamo la possibilità di degustare, di vedere, di capire, di confrontarci anche con le produzioni europee. Ogni anno aumentano le adesioni e abbiamo visto quanto importante è diventato questo punto di riferimento per il nostro comparto nella regione Veneto, una regione che produce tantissima qualità. Effettivamente noi abbiamo 8 DOP, abbiamo il 91% del nostro latte che viene trasformato in formaggi di pregio e soprattutto c'è una ricerca della qualità sempre più accanita da parte dei nostri trasformatori, perché vanno a proporre sicurezza alimentare e qualità. Questa è la carta di identità del lattiero caseario del Veneto e questa qua a Villa Contarini c'è la fotografia di quanto negli anni, diciamo così, le nostre cooperative, i nostri trasformatori hanno avuto la possibilità di fare per portare le nostre produzioni a quel livello al quale sono arrivate. Siamo un po' copiati, siamo copiati sia come produttività, come produzioni, che come anche eventi, e noi siamo orgogliosi di questo, siamo stati i primi, siamo rimasti i migliori, perché effettivamente siamo orgogliosi che il percorso ci abbia portato a un evento così importante, ma soprattutto che non sia solo l'evento. C'è comunque una serie di situazioni collegate, per esempio le forme di solidarietà, la cena con la Fondazione Città della Speranza, tutte cose che danno lustro a un territorio. Io ringrazio gli organizzatori di questo evento anche di questo primo, diciamo così, convegno che stiamo facendo in questo momento, perché effettivamente ci danno la possibilità di capire non solamente in Veneto ma anche nel resto d'Europa come stanno andando le nostre produzioni e quali possono essere le possibilità per noi allevatori in futuro. Ho finito, vi lascio la parola con la possibilità poi di poter intervenire per capire dalle esperienze che vedremo in questo convegno cosa noi possiamo tirare fuori e cosa noi possiamo proporre. Grazie alla conduttrice perché effettivamente mi ha dato tantissime idee già di quello che si potrà fare durante il convegno.
Thank you, President Borga. Would you like to add something about what are doing the farm in Veneto as for resilience? Le va di dirci qualcosa in merito a cosa stanno facendo le aziende in Veneto in tema di resilienza?
C'è una particolarità in Veneto che effettivamente ti dà l'idea di quanto le nostre aziende siano collegate al territorio. In questo momento ci sono tantissimi produttori piccolo-medi che hanno iniziato il percorso della produzione di formaggi di fattoria, formaggi che poi vendono direttamente al consumatore. Non è semplice in momenti difficili riuscire a essere resilienti, a resistere alle crisi. Effettivamente l'euforia dell'anno scorso ha portato un po' a una depressione di quest'anno. Purtroppo noi in Veneto, quando un'azienda chiude, non riapre più. Eravamo una ventina d'anni fa oltre 40.000 aziende, siamo rimasti meno di 2.300, quindi questo dà l'idea di come le aziende, di come il Veneto si sta trasformando dall'azienda patriarcale familiare ad aziende di dimensioni più interessanti, più importanti, quindi allevamenti intensivi che riescono in qualche maniera ad avere costi inferiori e riuscire a resistere in momenti particolari come questo. Una cosa nella quale le aziende stanno cercando di puntare è proprio quella di autoprodurre nell'azienda il più possibile in maniera di ricorrere sempre meno ai mercati. In questo momento questo è quello che il Veneto sta provando a fare. Ma il Veneto è sempre un'evoluzione di idee, per cui non potremo mai capire e immaginare cosa potrà succedere domani, perché effettivamente 20 anni fa non avremmo mai pensato di arrivare 20 anni dopo ad avere questo tipo di situazione. Una cosa è certa, nonostante le zone dove ci sono le vigne, il prosecco e quant'altro portino via tanto terreno a disposizione agli allevamenti zootecnici, la produzione di latte nel Veneto in questo momento non cala, proprio per il fatto che in qualche maniera la qualità riesce comunque a pagare il lavoro che viene fatto dagli allevatori.
Thank you, President Borga. You will see that, let's say, self-sufficiency is a common trend also in the rest of Europe. But now I would like to give the floor to the leader of the project, Valérie Brocard from IDEL Institute, France. She will tell us something about the dairy situation in France, and she will draw for us, let's say, a framework of the project. Please, Valérie.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, the sound is okay. So good morning, everybody. My name is Valérie Brocard. I work for the French Livestock Institute on dairy cows feeding and nutrition, and I'm leading this thematic network named Resilience for Dairy. I would like to thank Caseus and APROLAB for welcoming us again this morning, and also thank Serena, Alberto, and the colleagues from CRPA for the organization of the meeting this morning. So the question is about the main challenges faced by the dairy farmers in Europe. Maybe next slide, please. Can you show yeah, thank you. So what are the main challenges faced by the dairy farmers in Europe? There are many different challenges, and during the presentation this morning, you will have some highlights of the main problems faced by the farmers in few of the countries participating to our project. I have the chance to start with the challenges faced by the French dairy farmer, and I will start with some information about the situation of the French dairy farms as an example, and you will see other examples from other countries later during the presentation. First, I would like to underline the fact that in France we have the chance to have a large availability of agricultural land. And this land is relatively cheap compared to the situation in our neighboring countries. And this is why our production systems are based on forage production. You can see on a camembert, on the chart on the bottom on the left, that the average diet of a average French dairy cow is based on maize silage in yellow and different types of grass, graze grass, silage, and hay in green. And with a relatively limited resort to concentrates, most of the dairy farmers are producing their own cereals, except in the mountain areas. So we have a production system based on forage production, mostly with a limited resort to concentrates, and the main concentrates that we are importing is soybean from the South America. So it will be one of our main challenges. Our farms are still family farms with in average 68 cows, 80 hectares. The dairy production per cow is quite limited compared to other countries, 7,500 kilograms of milk, but this is an average between the plains and the mountain areas where the amount of concentrate is limited by the PDO productions, and the breeds also are not the most productive ones. So this is the situation of the dairy production and the production systems. So as I said, we are producing milk from homegrown forages, and so one of our main challenges will be climate change, because it has an impact on the forage yield. And another challenge will be the fragmented land. We have availability in relatively cheap land, but the structure of the farm is not always good for grazing, and it will lead to a increase in production cost and more working time. Next slide, please. So because of these production systems based on forage production, one of the main challenges faced by the dairy farmers will be climate change and hazards and their impacts on the forage production, in particular during the summer. So it may be a high production for the mountain systems, or it can be a decreased yield of maize silage or grass in other areas. Fights for water in the southwestern part of France. Everybody wants to use water to produce forages, but we have a start of water war also with other uses than agricultural uses. And the second one will be the protein self-sufficiency, to get rid of the soybean imported from South America. And this is also an important factor in a decrease in our carbon footprint, because by reducing these imported concentrates, we will also reduce our carbon footprint and our GHG emissions. So this is the second main challenge for the dairy chain, and our two main research programs and actions at the moment are related to the decrease of the carbon footprint. We have already a relatively low resort to nitrogen fertilizers, but we must still decrease our imports of protein concentrates if we want to go lower. And it's also related to this increased protein self-sufficiency by different means, like increasing oilseeds, protein crops, and legumes, for instance, to increase our protein self-sufficiency and decrease our production costs. But the main challenge at the moment is not a technical one or an economical one. The main challenge is about generational renewal and increase in the attractiveness of dairy farming, both to attract new dairy farmers, but also to have to attract staff on the farms. If we look at the results of the survey that Serena will describe in a few minutes about the most urgent needs of the farmers in France, you can see that on the top 5 topics, people voted for work-life balance. The main need of the dairy farmers and families is to improve the work-life balance. And if we look at number 2 and number 3, it's also related to this work-life balance. People want to improve the flexibility of their labor conditions or working hours, and they want to increase the returns from dairy production. So these 3 first topics are very related to the improvement of work-life balance. to face and to solve the problems of climate change and protein self-sufficiency. We already have some experiments running. We already have some technical solutions to offer. But to improve the work-life balance and the attractiveness of dairy farming, this is much more complicated. And at the moment, we are facing a big issue to attract people on dairy farms. And I know that it's not only the situation in our country. Next slide, please. So these are the most urgent needs of the dairy farmers in France, but I think we will discover that these needs are shared by many other farmers in Europe. Yeah, can you show the next slide, please? Thank you. So the aim of our Resilience for Dairy project is to help farmers face all these different challenges and to bring solutions which have already been tested and implemented in some countries, and to bring them to other farmers of various countries and various backgrounds to solve some of the most urgent problems and issues. So it's really farmers learning from other farmers thanks to cross-border exchanges. And to do this, we selected 120 pilot farmers in 16 different countries, which are the one in green on the map. Our project has 18 different partners from very different production backgrounds, from Finland to Spain and from Northern Ireland to Italy. The type of partners also is a broad mix of technical institutes, universities, farmers co-ops, schools, agricultural schools, to try to find solutions to the main issues faced by the farmers in these different backgrounds, in terms of climatic backgrounds, but also production systems. Next slide. How are we trying to improve the resilience of the dairy farms of these different production systems and countries? We are looking for practical solutions that can be implemented in the farms in 3 different areas. The first one is about economic and social resilience. The second one is about technical efficiency. And the third one is about environment, welfare, and societally friendly production systems. The different topics behind these 3 key areas will be explained by Serena later in the surveys. So our final objective is to establish a range of best practices, of innovation, practical solutions that can be directly implemented in the farms, because they have already been tested and implemented by other farmers from other countries, and they have also been adapted to the background of the country, to the background of the farm. So it's really a range of best practices tailored to answer farmers' specific need in one specific situation and one specific farm. And we will disseminate these best practices and these solutions with documents, fact sheets, but also with videos, with webinars, through social networks, to make sure that these 100 solutions reach the farmers of our participating countries. But to produce these solutions and to propose these solutions, the first step is to know the needs of the farmers in these different countries. And this is the first step, which will now be presented by Serena.
Thank you, Valerie, for the introduction. Yeah, now I take the floor just to tell you something about the process that brought us to the definition of those resilient solutions. The first step was find which were the needs. And so we constructed an inventory of needs through an online questionnaire that has been distributed in the 15 partner countries. And the structure of the questionnaire was the following. So we proposed to the stakeholders a list of 43 needs that we can group in the 3 main themes of the project. So economic and social resilience, technical efficiency, environment, welfare, and society. We asked the responders to attribute a value to those items, to each of them, a value from 0 to 5, according to their potential positive impact on the resilience of the farm. And this is the result. So we collected 533 responses. In the table, you can see the distribution by country. And this is the top 20 of the overall European ranking. Here we are. Okay. As Valerie said some minutes ago, work-life balance is at the very top of the ranking with 83%. This means that the 83% of responders attributed a very high score to this need. Within the top 10, the recurrent themes are the quality of life. So let's say the farmer welfare, and animal welfare, prevention and early detection, and we also find communication and environment. If we focus on the 11th position on, we find environment again, management, innovation in feed, and AM reduction, antimicrobial reduction, and prevention. We also performed some further investigation by taking into account results grouped by clusters. So we focused on specific groups of responders according to profession, for example, age or gender, or level of education, or dimension of the farm. And what was interesting is that also taking into account different clusters, results show a surprising homogeneity and similarities. So no many difference taking into account different group of responders. So in a nutshell, what we can highlight is that results are homogeneous comparing different clusters. That the main themes are farmer welfare, most of all work-life balance, salary and work flexibility, animal welfare, both cow and calves, and animal health, most of all prevention and antimicrobial reduction, communication with civil society, environmental sustainability and renewable energy, and management. So themes like farmers' education, data-driven decisions tools. Just to give you some food for thoughts, I want to stress that work-life balance and transparent and effective communication with civil society are in the very top 5 issues. So just on the same level of other more technical or economic challenges. And I think that this is really interesting. Now I want to, we can start with the more technical contributions, and I would like to give the floor to the other speakers, but I want to tell you that if there are questions, please use the chat. We are going to address them at the end of all the 4 presentations. So now I give the floor to Kelly Schmidt from LTA Luxembourg. She will tell us something about the dairy situation about her region and about mastitis detection.
One moment, I check to give the screen.
Yeah.
So you can hear me and see my screen.
Not wide screen?
No?
Okay.
Okay, perfectly. So good morning from my side as well. I am Kelly Schmidt and work as a teacher in the agricultural school here in Luxembourg. And in the project R4D, I have the role of the farm facilitator. To start, I would like to give you a brief overview of the dairy sector in Luxembourg. Here in the table, the largest area trends are plotted. In the last 15 years, the number of dairy farms in Luxembourg has decreased tenfold. In 2022, Luxembourg has a total of 589 specialized dairy farms. While the number of farms has decreased dramatically, the number of dairy cows has decreased only slightly to nearby 55,000 dairy cows in 2022. Milk production itself has developed significantly over the last 15 years, and this development is also evident in the production figures. With a smaller cow population, the milk production in 2022 was more than double that of 1970. A crucial moment for Luxembourg's milk production was the quota abolition in April 2015. The number of dairy cows already shows this impact in the table. While the number of dairy cows had been declined from 1980, it increased significantly from 2015 to 2016. The number of dairy, overall, this increased number of cows, we have 8,000 more dairy cows have been kept in Luxembourg since 2015. Due to the decrease in dairy farms themselves, this means an increase in dairy cows per farm with an average of 93 cows in 2022, while we have had an average of 66 cows in 2015. So in the last 7 years, dairy farms have grown in Luxembourg significantly. It is therefore not surprising that dairy farms are increasingly turning to technical solutions, as labor is quite expensive, especially here in Luxembourg. So in the recent years, the number of cows milked by robotic milking has doubled, and also the milk performance has also increased significantly due to different management approaches. The milk price situation is influenced by the world market and has therefore been very fluctuating, especially in the last 20 years, as you can see here in the figure. 2022 was a particularly good year and the milk price of 0.48 euro has been could be platform milk with 3.7% of fat and 3.3% of protein. Okay, so let's start with the presentation of the fact sheet to the mastitis detection. Like Valerie and Serena has explained it already, in the first phase of the project, the challenges of local agriculture as well as problems and fears were discussed with agricultural stakeholders. The impact of agriculture on the environment and society was discussed. One challenge that emerged was the development and spread of antibiotic resistance, which have become a major issue for public health. This is also how the fact sheet on mastitis detection was created. In dairy production, the major proportion of antimicrobials is applied for the treatments of udder inflammation. So a significant reduction of antimicrobial usage in dairy production can be achieved either directly by optimization of antimicrobial usage for clinical mastitis and dry cow treatment, or indirectly by general udder health improvement. So the solution proposed is detect mastitis pathogens quickly and treat them correctly with the tool of MastDecide. The use of this tool MastDecide will therefore have a positive impact on the environment, on the animal welfare, and on the society. Mastitis is probably the best known udder disease. In fact, animal or environment germs penetrate the udder of the animal and cause inflammation of one or more teats. Mastitis is very often treated with antibiotics without further investigations. The cell count gives a farmer information about the udder health, and normally from a limit of 215,000 cells, it is recommended to determine the germ type more precisely to be able to decide whether the high cell content is due to a bacteria to be treated or not. If mastitis is suspected on the farm, MastDecide helps as a decision tool for selective mastitis treatment. The use of the proposed tool is easy to perform. If mastitis is suspected, the farmer himself has to collect a quarter formic sample according to the instructions. A small amount of milk of the collected sample is then added to 2 little tubes and left in an incubator at 37 degrees for 12 hours. After these 12 hours, the result is evaluated by the farmer himself. Important to know is that the test media only decolorizes from pink to white when microorganisms grow in this media. So there can be 3 different cases. As you can see here on the left side, the first case is Buzz test media remain pink. So we have no pathogen growth is detectable. In the middle here, if only one test medium decolorizes, the pathogens are gram-negative or coliform. And the third case here on your right side, if Buzz test media decolorize from pink to white, the microorganisms are gram-positive. Depending on the test result, treatment is advisable and effective or not. So when gram or negative or coliform bacteria appears, no treatment is used because penicillin is not suitable. Only in case of detection of gram-positive bacteria, local antibiotic treatment is advised after consultation with the veterinarian. So only in 1 of 3 cases, the use of antibiotic is really recommended. To determine if farms are considering this tool, it is important to look at the cost versus the benefits. On the one hand, we have the costs, and there we have one-time cost in the amount of 120 euro with the incubator and reaction vessel stand. And the test package itself costs around about 100 euro for 10 tests. That is 10 euro per test can be charged. On the other hand, we have the positive features that offset the cost. The result is available relatively quickly within 12 hours and can be carried out by the farmer himself directly on his own farm. As already explained, the MastDecide enables pathogen-specific therapy selection, resulting in a 16% reduction in antibiotic use. A reduction in antibiotic use also means a reduction in costs and milk losses. Thus, the cost per test with 10 euro per test is negligible. Furthermore, with a specific treatment, we have a benefit of animal health and public welfare. As a conclusion for the fact sheet on mastitis detection, it has to be noted that the tool MastDecide is a fast and correct measurement without unnecessary antibiotic consumption. It helps the farmer to make a decision and to guarantee a pathogen-specific therapy and reduce the use of antibiotics through more targeted treatment. Furthermore, it is advisable not only to treat the result of the MastDecide test, but occasionally send samples to the lab for testing to better assess the farm situation. Usually, the same bacteria or germs occur again and again on the farm. Finally, the whole thing would be really innovative if it were integrated into milking robot technology in the future, especially for Luxembourg, where the use of milking robots is increasing more and more. So this was my part. Thank you for your attention. I think the main information are available on the fact sheets, also on our website from R4D. And so I give the floor to the next speaker.
Thank you, Kelly, for your contribution. Now I leave the floor to George Ramsbottom from Tigask, Ireland. Will tell us about the Irish situation, about as for dairy farms, and about the strategic hoof trimming. Please, George, you can share your screen.
Thanks very much, Serena. I want to talk to you for a minute about the use of lameness in dairy herds and managing lameness on Irish dairy farms. So just give me a second until I try and pull this thing up. Oh, here we are. Sorry. Now you can see my screen.
Not widescreen?
Yeah.
Or yes?
Is it there? Is it there now?
Not me, let's say.
It is there, but not on presentation mode.
Okay, that's fine. Just give me a second there, guys. I figure out what's going on here now. Sorry about this. See now, I'm going there. I'll have to run it off. I'll have to run it off the not presentation mode. It's coming up on a second screen I have here, and I can't figure out. I can't remember how to disconnect it. No, I won't chance doing it. I'll leave it the way it is. It'll be fine. Okay. So just
otherwise, George, you can just share your screen, and I'm sure we can follow your presentation also if it is not in screen.
Yeah, can you see it now? No. 1 second now. I'll have to give it this way. Okay, can you see screen 2 now, guys and girls?
Oh.
Okay, that's great. So just as the background to the Irish dairy sector, that's great. Just to give you a small background first to the Irish dairy sector, we have 17,000 dairy farms in Ireland, and the average herd size, like Luxembourg, is 93 cows. On average, we have a relatively low replacement rate because our herds have become increasingly fertile over the last number of years, and we're running with a first lactation number of cows, the premier comparison, the jeunesse, of 19%. of the herd is first calvers. And our milk yield would seem relatively modest at less than 6,000 kilos of milk per cow, but our composition is high, and it's based on a long number of days of grass, and a lot of our milk is being produced from grass. Having said that, we feed a lot of concentrate relative to what we would recommend. We feed around 1.2 tons of concentrate per cow per annum, but we still produce a lot of milk from our grazing systems, and we have a long period that the cows spend at grass. The vast majority of our farms area is under grass. Only 5% of it is used for cropping, and the amount of maize silage, for example, used on our farms is small. Only 5% of our land is cropped on our dairy farms. And our farm stocking rate is just over 2 cows per hectare, 2.1 cows for every hectare that we farm. From a financial perspective, 2022 was a very high milk price year, but also was a very high milk cost year. Cost of production were very high. So our average milk price in 2022 on a national basis was 60 cents per litre, but our total costs in that year, which exclude family labour but do include hired labour, was 35.5 cents per litre, leaving us with a net profit per hectare farmed of around €2,200 on the average Irish farm. We farm relatively intensively, use a lot of artificial fertilizers, equivalent of around 193 kilos of surplus nitrogen per hectare is achieved, but our emissions per kilo of milk produced is relatively low at 0.88 kilos of milk. Because the agricultural sector is large in Ireland relative to the size of our population, 37% of our emissions are produced nationally. Our greenhouse gas emissions nationally come from the agricultural sector, and the majority of that is coming from methane, because most of the farming practices on Irish farms are actually livestock based. Stop sharing there for a minute. Sorry guys, I'm just having trouble moving. It's giving me a duplicated screen for some reason or other. Okay. So in terms of the topic we're asked to focus on, we're going to focus for a minute in this slide on strategic hoof trimming as a means of improving health status. This is listed as fact sheet 204 on the R4D system, and it is relevant to 3 areas: technical efficiency, animal welfare, and economic resistance. So it meets all 3 needs, or all 3 focuses of the R4D, the Resilience for Dairy project that we're engaged in. And if we look first of all at lameness from the point of view of where it's coming from, it's a huge animal welfare concern within the dairy industry. In Ireland, our data would suggest a prevalence during the grazing season of 8% and 9% during the housing season. But we know that in other countries where there are more indoor systems of milk production practiced, such as in North America, the incidence of lameness can be as high as 55%. When cows are out at grass, it's a softer, kinder environment on their feet, and that's why we think that our incidence of lameness is much lower. Having said that, though, it's strategic hoof trimming, which is a preventative practice, that where the entire herd has their hoofs examined and trimmed if required during the course of lactation. However, in 2019 and 2020, only 6% of Irish farmers actually applied this practice to their cows, and it was done at housing time when cows were brought indoors for the winter. The strategy works by organising a routine inspection of the entire herd, where the cows' hooves are lifted and inspected, and if needed, they will be trimmed. It's normally done once per year at drying off. Because our herds are seasonal, all the cows are dried off within a month of each other, normally in November of the year. So the majority of cows will be dry before Christmas. Only about 15% of our herds are all year round milking. What our research will show is that a second routine inspection around 8 weeks after cow calves may also be beneficial, or may add additional benefit in terms of reducing the incidence of lameness. So it's the first and most important routine inspection of the cows would take place in November or early December, and a second inspection around the end of April would also improve things considerably. The suggested method for inspection and treatment is around the 5-step Dutch method, where dysfunctional trimming takes place and corrective trimming where there is a problem with the cow. Okay, what's involved in the there are two options for engaging in this. The first is the purchase of a crate, and then the correct equipment and training of the farmer. And the second, the more common option that's used in Ireland, is the payment or hiring in of a trained hoof trimmer who is fully trained in routine hoof trimming to carry out. And this comes at a cost of a fee per cow plus a call-out fee for the trimmer to appear on the farm. Positive features of this type of intervention includes the restoration of hoof conformation, the detection of mild cases of lameness before they have caused clinical symptoms of the problem. There's a reduction in the number of cows that have overgrown claws, which can reduce milk yield and increase infertility levels. And it can be used to identify the most common lesions, allowing associated risks to be minimized on the farm. And it can enhance the longevity in animal welfare and reduce overall costs of treating and dealing with lameness. Lameness, however, just to be careful about it, we need to remember these points. Hoof trimming needs to be carried out by someone who's been trained in the procedure, how to treat properly. Care must be taken not to over trim the hooves. And do not wait until your scheduled routine trim to treat a cow that's been identified as lame. Any cow that's lame is a cow that has a problem and needs to be treated as soon as possible. Routine trimming can be seen or should be seen as a routine inspection. Upon inspection of the hoof, the trained personnel can decide whether further trimming is necessary. And cows walking long distances of pasture may not require routine trimming. However, we still recommend that they are inspected. And there's further information available on the Teagasc website about this, how to reduce lameness in dairy farms. One of our farmers said that routine trimming helped me to reduce the incidence of lameness or the prevalence of lameness in his herd, saving him time and money. And with that, Serena, I will hand it back over to you for our next presentation.
Thank you, George, for your contribution. Thank you. And now the floor goes to Belgium, to Sandra De Bevere from Inagro for the colostrum management and for an overview about the dairy situation in her region. Please,
okay,
Sandra.
Thank you. You see my screen?
See? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Did you know that 17% of the calves have insufficient colostrum antibodies in their body, in their blood? And calves with insufficient colostrum antibodies in their blood are 2.6 times more likely to die than other calves. So colostrum management is really an important thing. The 17% was determined in a Belgian study on 87 Flemish farms with dairy and beef cattle. Also something to mention, to know if there's insufficient antibodies in the blood, the reference value was 10 grams per liter. So the difference if the calf is more likely to be sick or not. So 70% is really a lot. If you go to this graph, on the x-axis, you see the age of the calf in days. And on the y-axis, the antibody concentration in the blood. You see a pink line. This is the active immunity. So you see that calves are born without active immunity. If you check the red line, this is actually the passive immunity, so antibodies that the calf gets from the colostrum. So the calves are really dependent on the antibodies in the colostrum after birth to be protected against diseases. So colostrum management is really important. And it's more than just giving colostrum. We have actually 4 big steps that are important to take for a good colostrum management. So first we will go to the first one. This is the dry periods. So you start already with colostrum management before calving. So the cow, you need to be sure that the cow gets enough dry matter intake. She needs enough energy also to produce colostrum of good quality. Antibodies are actually also proteins, so the crude protein intake is very important. Also, vitamins and minerals like selenium and vitamin E are really important to have good colostrum quality, and also access to clean water is important. Here you see another figure on the x-axis hours after birth of the calf, and on the y-axis the percentage of maximum antibodies that a calf can get in blood. First of all, we will look at the red line. That is the level of antibodies in the colostrum in the udder of the cow. And you see that the longer you wait to milk the cow, the less the colostrum contains antibodies. So it's more or less diluted. So it's very important to milk the cow directly after giving birth. Also check the colostrum quality, because you want to give good quality of colostrum to the calf. What can you use? There are different techniques to do that. For example, some use colostrum balls and a densimeter. This is dependent on the density of the colostrum. So if you see floating green colostrum balls on the colostrum, then it should be good quality. For the densimeter, if the densimeter floats high enough and you see green parts, then it's a good colostrum. But this is actually temperature dependent, so not that accurate. It depends also on the temperature of the colostrum. So it's actually better to use a refractometer, because this method is temperature independent. You have analog refractometers, digital refractometers. So these are actually the better devices that you can use to check the colostrum quality. You want a quality of 22 bricks or more, or 55 IgG per liter colostrum. If we go back to this figure on the right, you can see a green line. This is the uptake capacity of antibodies in the intestine of the calf. In the beginning, the wall of the intestine is permeable for antibodies, but you see, if you wait longer to give the colostrum, it becomes less and less permeable for antibodies. If you wait, for example, 12 hours, then it's only permeable for, let's say, half of the antibodies anymore. So feed the colostrum as quick as possible, certainly within 6 hours. You want to give a minimum of antibodies of 220 grams, but it's even better to strive for 300 grams. Here is a table that farmers can use to see how much liters of colostrum the calf should get, dependent on the quality of the colostrum. But of course, it's better to give more than the mentioned liters. But you see, for example, the first lines are colostrum of bad quality. So in this situation, you should give an alternative. for example, colostrum that you stored in the freezer, because you will never be able to give enough colostrum to the calf to administer the minimum of 220 grams within 6 hours. So, for example, when you check the quality of the colostrum and you have a Brix of 24, you need a minimum of 3 liters of colostrum. So, the fourth step of a good colostrum management is when you have colostrum of good quality and you have a little bit more colostrum stored in the freezer immediately and hygienically. You can always use that for a calf where you don't have a good quality of colostrum from the cow. You can put it in the fridge also for maximum 2 days and in the freezer for 1 year. When you want to use it, defrost it slowly in a water bath or in the fridge, but never go above 60 degrees, because then you will destroy the antibodies. Also, don't use a microwave, because this is an uncontrolled heating and this will destroy the antibodies. Here you have also some specific advices. If the calf doesn't drink well, you can use a drench probe. Then you can give the colostrum, although the calf doesn't drink well. What you also can do to check your colostrum management is to perform a colostrum check. So you can ask this to the vet. He'll take some blood samples of young calves, and he can see in the blood how much antibodies are in the blood of the calves, and then this is a measure to check your colostrum management. Also, 4 words that are also important in colostrum management is quick, fresh, much, and often. So, administer the colostrum quick. After birth, it's better to give it fresh, because when you freeze it, some immunity cells will not survive, but you still have your antibodies. But fresh is a little bit better than colostrum out of the freezer. Much, so you give enough antibodies and often. So these were the slides of colostrum management. I'm working at Inagro in Flanders, Belgium, so I will give shortly some key figures from Belgium and Flanders. We had in 2022 more than 8,000 dairy farms. Most of them were in Flanders. We had more than 500,000 dairy cows. And you see in this figure that the number of cows increased during the years, and number of cows increased and the main number of dairy farms decreased. We have about 64 cows per dairy farm. In Flanders, this is a little bit higher. And the milk production is about 4 billion liters milk per year, and this is mainly from Flanders. Then the milk price in Belgium, as was also said for other countries, in 2022, we had an increase of the milk price. But now in 2023, this decreases again. So this was my presentation.
Thank you, Sandra. Thank you for this insight. Now the floor is to Evie Canier, again from Inagro, Belgium, and she will talk about young stock weight. Please, Evie.
Thank you, Serena. Okay. So, like Serena said, I will tell a bit more about measuring young stock for sufficient growth. It's really important that calves grow good during their first 2 years. So when they calve, that they are sufficiently mature and can produce a lot of milk. Our goal in Flanders is that at the age of 24 months, they are ready for calving. But in Europe, the mean age at first calving is still 26 months. So measuring on a regular basis is important because then you can detect at an early stage if the growth is not optimal, and you can intervene quickly to adapt duration, for example, or to change something to optimize the growth. The advantages of an optimal growth are that there are lower rearing costs, a higher milk production, and in the end, the livestock is more sustainable. To analyze the growth of your young stock, you have 3 possible measures to know how good they are growing. The first one is a weighing of the animals. That's the most labor intensive, but it's also the most correct one. Then for a second measure, you can choose to measure the chest circumference of your young stock. And then at the end, but the least precise measure is the measuring of the rump height of the animals. So like I said before, weighing is the most precise, but also the most labor-intensive way of analyzing the growth of the heifers. It also has a cost with it. You need to have a good weighing scale that is easy to use. The second measure is to measure the chest circumference, and that you can do by putting the tape behind the elbows, like on the picture, and you may not tighten the tape too much. You need to be able to put 2 fingers between the tape and the skin of the animal. It's not a good picture, but in reality, the animals need to stand nicely squared, so with their heads on a level of their back. So now the animal is puts its head down, so the measurement won't be correct. When you have measured in Flanders, we have done a lot of research recent years about this, and we have a table that we can calculate the weight based on the measurements of the chest circumference. The last measure is to measure the rump height, but it's the least precise alternative. For this, the animal needs to stand on a flat horizontal surface, and you need a stick with a spirit level so that the measurement is done correctly. You measure the animal, the height of it, at the level of the 2 hip bones, and the spirit level must be even. Animals also must stand nicely squared, and also based on this measurement, the weight can be estimated. Here you see the optimal growth curve for Holstein dairy calves, with at each age what target growth they should have. So in the first column, you see the weight of the animal. In the second column, you see the chest circumference, and in the last column, you see the rump height. There are a few ages that are highlighted. This is because for us in Flanders, they are the key ages to analyze the growth. So at 2 months, the calves must weigh 80 till 85 kilos. At 6 months, we want them to reach 200 kilo. And at 13 months, they need to weigh 380 till 400 kilo, and so be ready or close to ready for the first insemination. When they calve, they need to weigh 630 kilo, and that's with the calf included. Specific advice to take as a take-home message is that it's easier to implement this measure if you link the measuring moments with fixed moments, like when you wean calves or when you move them from to another pen or to another stable. This helps the measuring become a regular habit. I want to thank you for your attention. This is the end of my presentation.
Thank you, Evie, for your contribution. Thank you, to all the speakers. Today we listened about 4 solutions that are part of the results of the project R4D. Once again, the project will produce 100 of those fact sheets, and in a while, let's say some months, find them in the website of the project. So if you are interested, visit the website. There will be a lot of material. Now I would like to ask to President Borga if he would like to comment somehow.
Grazie. È sempre un piacere confrontarsi con le altre realtà europee per quello che riguarda, diciamo, la conoscenza degli allevatori di quello che stanno facendo gli altri per crescere insieme. Mi dà l'idea che rispetto a tanti anni fa si sta un po' appiattendo quello che è la situazione europea. Io ho conosciuto gli irlandesi tanti anni fa e avevano problemi diversi da quelli che hanno adesso, ma mi dà l'idea che il futuro sia quello di un problema soprattutto per quello che riguarda il ricambio generazionale e diciamo la convivenza con le realtà, diciamo così, locali. Parlando anche con l'amministratore della Campina 2 anni fa, quando alla mia domanda qual è il vostro rapporto con la popolazione, la sua risposta era stata: è il nostro problema più importante. Da noi è purtroppo la stessa cosa. Ricambio generazionale e rapporto con quelli che sono, diciamo così, i cittadini sarà il problema dell'allevatore in futuro. Tecnicamente poi tutte le soluzioni vanno bene e sempre più l'allevatore diventerà un professionista nella sua azienda. Però secondo me l'impatto ambientale, secondo noi, secondo il Veneto, l'impatto ambientale è da tenere molto in considerazione e anche noi quest'anno abbiamo iniziato a valutare le soluzioni per il carbonio. Fa piacere di confrontarsi con altre realtà. Il mio è un allevamento di 500 vacche circa, però come per tutti i problemi li abbiamo tutti alla stessa maniera. La fortuna della nostra azienda è che abbiamo anche dei giovani che ci lavorano, ma sempre di più, secondo me, il problema sarà quello di riuscire a creare un sistema di ricerca per avere la possibilità di avere una difesa non solamente, diciamo così, nostra a parole, ma anche della scienza e di quello che sono le istituzioni che naturalmente, università e quant'altri, centri di ricerca e quant'altri, che andranno a difendere quella che è la nostra attività. Credo che produrre latte non sia assolutamente un lavoro né, diciamo così, piacevole e nemmeno però delinquenziale, per cui sempre di più avremo bisogno del nostro confronto per riuscire a darci le idee e a fare delle considerazioni su quello che sarà il nostro futuro. Grazie a tutti, perché effettivamente anche se non siamo in presenza quest'anno rispetto agli altri anni, è sempre interessante confrontare il nostro pensiero col vostro.
Thank you, President Borga. Yes, we share, let's say, the same issues, and we can share, let's say, the same solutions. We can try at least. So once again, thank you to all the speakers. Thank you, thanks to Caseus, Aprolav, to Regione Veneto, Intermezzo, and to Villa Contarini. We truly hope to see you all again. And thank you again, President Borga. I think we can close the connection.